Computer. Okay. Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Prompt
Hi.
people. Sid. Hi, Emily.
Sid, I'm so glad you're here.
So if you guys can have your chat box open, that would be awesome. Hey, Mandy. Oops.
Hey, Mandy.
Hi,
You
Mandy.
made it.
Good to see you. Look at that tree. Are you having tree envy behind? Look at that, Jill.
I am having a little tree envy.
Yeah, that's looking good. That's looking good. So, so everybody, please have your chat box open. You're all muted right now.
Yes, open your chat box.
Open your chat box if you know how to do that. And I'm going to ask you in the chat box to put your name, where you're located, physically located, and what beverage do you have with you right now. We're encouraging beverage, whatever beverage you have. So if you want to please include your name, location, and what beverage of choice. I have my Modern Times. It's a special treat.
Megan, maybe put a little chat in there about asking people to go ahead and do that. Okay, great. Mandy, coming to us from Canada. Ooh, red wine, which is typically my favorite.
Yes.
But today, because I've drank all the wine, I'm now like down to spirits. So I actually made a gin and juice with fresh orange juice and strawberries pureed together with some gin and soda water. Cheers, Mandy.
Thanks, Megan. Welcome, welcome, everybody. You're joining on mute, but if you can see, Megan is going to be our chat aficionado today, our chat officiant today, manager. And so we're asking everybody to include their name, location, and the beverage they're drinking right now in the chat box. Thank you. So everybody have your chat box open. That would be awesome.
Emily, love you and miss you so much. In Austin, even though I know you're supposed to be getting ready to leave the country. Lavender Love kombucha.
I'm writing my name, my location.
That sounds really good right now.
And Modern.
Cheers to that,
Times IPA.
Love your virtual living funerals. That's going to be really amazing.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody.
Kayla's back. Cheers, girl.
Yeah, Jill, I'm glad we have some repeats. Jill's back. Kayla's back. Woo woo. We got some regulars at our cheers, our happy hours, Jill. So that's pretty cool.
I know.
Everybody.
Will.
Amber, we see you. Your video showing.
That's Will. That's Amber's boo.
Oh, okay. Oh, he covered himself, but we can still see you.
Okay, so Sid is here. He's from Sherman Oaks, an undistinguished Pinot Noir. Yes.
Yeah.
Here's Sid. I already went through all of those, like I said.
Yeah. Awesome. Everybody, welcome. We're everybody's coming on and mute. And please have your chat box open if you don't already. And we're asking everybody to put in your name, where you're physically located, and what beverage of choice you're drinking tonight, or you wish you had, I guess. If that's, I mean, I know Rosie's drinking tea, which I know is wonderful, but maybe there's I kind of wouldn't mind Jill's concoction. Jill, what are you drinking again?
Oh, I'm kind of proud. It's like a homemade gin and juice. I did fresh squeezed oranges and I pureed some strawberries that were like right on the verge of like ripeness, like they were just about to go moldy, and I pureed it up in a NutriBullet, and then I added gin and soda water.
Timing is everything. So yummy. So yes, welcome everybody. Like I mentioned, I'm Stephanie. Everybody's on mute right now. Please add your name, where you're physically located, and
there's Amber.
Your beverage of choices right now, or what you're drinking. Megan, who's with us, is going to be our chat moderator.
Oh, Kayla's got a Fireball and Coke. Respect.
Oh. Welcome everybody. Hi, Callisto. New faces. There's Amber. Hi, Amber.
Hey.
Hey. Okay. Natalie from Torrance. Welcome, Natalie.
Natalie, really good to see you. Hi,
Yes,
Betsy.
Betsy.
Sorry, I just like rejected your call because I was like, Betsy, you know I'm online. I can't.
No. I meant to text you because I tried like 20 different links and none of them were working. I went to Stephanie, I went to yours,
Oh,
I went to
no.
none of the
Oh,
Zoom links
sorry.
worked.
But
So finally, I finally went to one of the posts of Stephanie's. I tried like 20 different posts. I'm like, ah! So I found it.
well, you're here 2 minutes after, so I'm sorry you got a little.
Awesome.
We're working on it. It's constant work in progress. But we're encouraging everybody to put your name, where you're located, and what you're drinking right now, or what you wish you'd be drinking.
Ooh,
Happy hour.
Calista with
My
the Jack
coffee.
Daniel's apple brandy.
We're just going to wait a couple more minutes to make more people join us on this happy hour.
Calista was definitely like rocking the drink hard. That is a nice, amazing drink.
Yes.
Winner.
Wow, that's impressive. Yes.
Are we gonna have to go into cocktail wars on this like next time or what?
There was. I know that Amber posted one as a pre post about one a drink that sounded good too. Something refreshing, right?
Oh, it was like an IPA and gin, I think.
Yeah.
Nice.
Great.
Okay, Steph, well, it's already 5:03, so if you just want to briefly like go over the rules, we can just go ahead and get started.
Yeah, definitely. Well, welcome everybody. So glad to see so many of you here. And yeah, welcome to Death Over Drafts. As I said, Megan is going to be, she's hiding herself right now, so she can't wave
No,
at
I'm
all.
right here.
Oh, there you are. Okay, there's two
I'm
Megans.
two people. I've got two
First.
accounts open.
Megan is going to be our chat moderator co-host today, so she'll be capturing some of the information in the chat box while Jill and I keep this moving forward, and we'll reflect later on some of those pieces that you share. Once again, some of the ground rules here. All participation is voluntary. So video, audio, in chat box, whatever you're comfortable with. Last week we did a go around wanting to invite everybody to say their name. This time, because if we have more people, we're going to keep it till chat. And if you want to share, please let Megan know. You can raise your hand in the chat box. So that will be our main way. You can chat to Megan directly if you want to reflect on something that we've shared here today. But we're not going to be calling on you, putting you on the spot. So I just wanted to let you know if you had any pressure with that last week. We do want to get to know all of you, but on your terms, not ours. We really want this to be a space that you can just be however you're comfortable today, because I know sometimes we're always on or not. We're just glad that you've come back and joined us. So I just kind of want to give you some ground rules on that. It's also, we're recording this. So that's something else I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of. Just a little bit of background and introduction here for you guys today. My name is Stephanie Elkins, and I'm the Continuum of Care coach and consultant. My focus is to educate, guide, and coordinate caregiving and end-of-life conversations, plans, and programs for families and organizations. And that's why I'm so thrilled to be here with all of you today, because I know a lot of us are in this space. I'm grateful, so grateful to be co-hosting and facilitating this Death Over Draft Happy Hour. A little bit of background: the first Death Over Draft Happy Hour was part of the October 2019 Reimagine Festival in San Francisco. Reimagine, some of you might know about it. It is a citywide event. Right now it's been in San Francisco and New York. It sparks community-driven experiences that explore and celebrate life through creativity and conversation. And I was fortunate, and Mandy was there helping as well, at our first Crafting Your Narrative or Death Over Draft Happy Hour that I facilitated with my friend and colleague Jill Shock, Death Doula LA, who's here with us today. Woo woo. And the idea was to craft an experience that combined our passions of beer and to encourage conversation about end of life in an environment that was casual and supportive. So Jill and I are co-hosting the talk today. She'll be sharing and addressing more information specifically a little bit later. And then our co-host along with Megan. And so once again, for you, any of you that have joined, if you're not already, please have your chat box open, because that's going to be our main form of communication today. Your name, location, and what beverage you are enjoying for this happy hour, or what you'd want to be drinking. So Megan, I didn't know if there's any kind of, do you want to check in with what we've seen, what's on the chat box today?
I think we've covered actually a few. I guess Lisa, she's drinking an IPA. I don't know. I think we're kind of ready
Are we caught up?
Yeah, I think we are.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Mandy was also a sponsor of Reimagine. We definitely want to, with the keeper and so on. So thank you.
Megan, when you see something, you can just like wave if you need to get my attention or whatever. But
okay, you know, actually, I will. Will you make sure that I'm added as a co-host?
You already are. Maybe you want me to do it on the other one?
That's good. Cool. No worries. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. So.
Okay.
So let's see what we're doing now. So first, cheers. With whatever you're drinking, with any of your marvelous drinks that you have. Oh my God, beautiful. Oh, so we need some shots. So Amber, I don't know. I mean, I didn't have it earlier. I'm like, this is a screenshot if we ever can get one. All right. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers for all being here.
All right, and now to just drop the brutalist bomb on everybody. Today's topic is ventilators. And I came at it from 4 different sources. Hello to people who are just joining. We're just starting to talk about the theme of what we're doing. So what we're doing is medical intervention and decision-making, ventilators and intubation in the time of COVID. So the first thing I did was interviewed a respiratory therapist who has 30 years experience under his belt. We're gonna go ahead and upload that sound bit to a YouTube channel very soon. But listening to his interview changed my life and my view on what it means to be put on a ventilator. So you'll get to hear more about that. And then we also have a couple of upcoming weekly themes. Stephanie, if you want to talk about those briefly.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're doing here to create space and have a casual, but also what are we hearing? What do we want more information on in an accessible way? And so we created this, you might be seeing the hashtag TDIF, Thank Death It's Friday. I think all of you can handle that.
Thank Death It's Friday.
Thank Death It's Friday. So we are, for those that were with us last week, this way we're structuring it a little bit more about certain topics. This week is medical intervention and decision making. I did listen to that talk Jill did with Michael, and it was very relevant and user friendly for me. That's not very clinical, and so I really appreciated the candor of that. And that's going to be on a YouTube channel. Grief, it's a process. Have you heard about this thing called grief that we're all going through?
What are you talking about?
So we're going to kind of reflect that. And the whole team, the team that we're talking about is Jill and me and Rocio, shake your hand, Rocio, and Megan and Amber. And so we have our own flavors, if you will, and skills in terms of how we want to communicate around these different topics. So next week at Grief, it's a process. April, the week after that happens to be National Decision-Making Week, National Healthcare Decision-Making Week, which is really necessary now. So we'll be talking about advanced healthcare directives and legacy, a lot of amazing information going on around that. But
it's the most important holiday this year. Everyone's going to want to take part in this holiday for the first time ever.
Yeah. And then the last one that I think is going to be interesting is our relationship and how we share cannabis and integrative healing.
Ooh, on 420, by the way,
Yeah.
I will be.
So in terms of how we share and utilize and hold space around cannabis and integrative healing is so important, and have an honest, accessible conversation around that. So those are some of our themes. Another second cheers, if you will, to join. And now we're going to go into kind of the meat of how this happy hour is going to go with using the death deck. The death deck, I'm going to do a little show and tell. If anybody has it nearby, I think there are a couple other people here that might. It's a brilliant conversation starter tool. And so this is really what we've been using for our happy hours to navigate a variety of topics related to death. And Lisa and Lori, the co-creators, happen to be here with us. They've always been super supportive of me sharing this out at happy hours and co-hosting and doing it all with you. So this is, for doing virtual happy hours, I think it's really a great tool doing this along with the chat to really create conversation. So I'm going to give them an opportunity right now to open it up. If you guys want to go on mute and just say a minute about why the death deck, like where did that, how did that happen? If you guys want to just do that for a minute or so, and then we're going to go right into a question.
Okay. Hold on. I'm learning Zoom right now, so.
We see you in your hot pink.
Yeah, okay, that's all I need to know. So I'm Lisa. Lori's here in the right-hand side corner waving. Lori and I met, you probably all know this story, but I was Lori's hospice social worker for her husband, Joe. And so we've been friends now 11 years, and out of that has come a lot of great things, but one of those products, or one of those things, is the death deck. And we are so excited that Stephanie and Jill and many others have been using it as a tool to kind of launch these conversations. So we're happy to be here and be part of it.
Great, thank you. So first, thank you so much. Lori, did you want to add anything, or you guys can always add onto the chat box, or is there anything else, Lori, you wanted to? I said I was going to call on people and then I called on you. I'm sorry. You could always. I'm going to unmute you. Did you want to add anything?
I think, yeah, no, this is incredible, and we love sharing this. And am I unmuted?
No, you're unmuted. I unmuted you. I said I wasn't going to call anybody. I'm like, I did it. Sorry.
Yes, no, we're just so honored that you're using this as a tool, and we love to be part of these things to get this conversation going. So.
Yeah, definitely. All right, beautiful. I'm muting you again. Okay. The first question is of the death deck, and Megan will be adding this into the box and then reporting back on it for us, is growing up, my family dealt with death by talking openly, sharing feelings, stories, and dark humor. B, in a no nonsense sort of way. Shit happens, you move on. And C, keeping it all bottled up and avoiding any discussion. So I'm going to, it's in the chat box right now. So you guys can see all that. I'm going to just do it one more time.
I mean, I grew up in an open casket religion. So I was like used to walking up to dead bodies since I was like very young. What about you, Steph?
We don't really talk about it. Both my grandparents died both my grandfathers died before I was born. And we didn't really talk about it openly. And now I'm trying to engage in conversation and honoring them and seeing what the relationships, but it's not something that we really have talked about that much. They know,
Yeah.
they know that I'm doing these conversations right now. Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of C, so I feel like a lot of people in the comments are definitely like feeling the same way that you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeping it all bottled up. And that's not, it's not healthy. It comes back. I mean, just to be really real with you, one of my grandfathers died by suicide. And when my mom was really young, it was a month after they were married. this, and so the relationship to that and how we talked about it was really, you know, challenging. It was hidden, and that was a time when it wasn't talked about. And so I think, you know, here it is now, I'm hosting this, and what my relationship with death and talking about it is so much different, and having that permission to,
Yeah,
and not
absolutely.
keeping it up. I mean, definitely because of that. Megan, do you want to kind of give an update of what you're seeing in the chat box?
Hey, Steph. Yeah, so it looks a lot like what you were saying before about a lot of C. And I wonder if there's not some reason that the people that are willing to sit here today and come to what, you know, a lot of people would expect is a very uncomfortable space and having an uncomfortable conversation. Apologies about the video. I think it's interesting to think that a lot of people who grew up suppressing this are now today willing to show up on a Zoom call and participate with strangers to have this conversation. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Okay.
I was gonna say, anybody can message me directly if you want to share anything at any point.
Yeah.
Just shoot me a direct message and I'll share.
Or raise your
Right.
hand too, if anybody wants to raise their hand and share. I see Rocio.
Yeah, I mean, I think this alludes to the time that we're in, right? And this is a conversation that is getting almost forced upon our culture in this time. So it's our personal narratives, our own family, our own cultural background, and our experiences. But then it's like, here's a collective trying to reinvent and recreate something different, and what a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
And so we're having to almost deal with all these cake layers that have happened for such a long time, and having to reinvent it right now and deal with it and face it. And it's a beautiful time, even though it feels incredibly overwhelming. So anyways, thank you for this opportunity and creating this thing. So
is there anybody else that wants to raise their hand and share? Or Megan, did you get any other feedback on this question?
No, nothing yet.
Okay, cool.
Looks like we got a
We're gonna move on to deck question 2. Regarding your important documents, so the will, the life insurance, the healthcare directives, as we know, the advanced comprehensive estate plan is like living will, trust, power of attorney for finances, and advanced healthcare directive. What do you know about that? So the question is, Megan will put it in the chat box. Regarding your important documents, A, my family knows exactly where to find them. B, they are filed together and should be easy to find. Or C, they may or may not exist. So good luck finding them.
I'm proud to say A and B, like everyone, like me. Well, I have like 2 people in my family. So my mom and Jeff know where to find the documents, and we've like all had in-depth talks. And I've gone actually, like, I've done a 5 wishes before. I've done just like a plain advanced California directive before. So I do change it from time to time, but both of them do know there's an emergency plan, and vice versa. Like for my mom, I know where her safe is. I mean, not like my mom.
I know where my parents say, like, do I know the condo? Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Mom. But you know, we totally have a plan, but I will say we did not have that plan when my dad died, and that was in 2015.
Yeah.
So we had to learn when the shit hits the fan kind of way.
Yeah. I have to update some of my information, but it's sitting in my like inbox behind me.
See, but that's like exactly what people get caught in these days.
Right.
That's a part of what we're going to talk about.
It's on it. And so, Megan, any feedback from what you're seeing in the chat boxes? I know there's a lot of interaction, but Steph,
we're getting a lot of feedback on this one, which is exciting. So we're getting a lot of A's and B's and a couple of bold C's, publicly sharing. I'll say I've gotten my first private messages. We've got a couple of private C's that are in the group. And I want to say that there is that saying, the cobbler's wife has no shoes, right? It's not uncommon for people that work in this industry to sometimes avoid the basics for themselves. So don't feel bad. You are in good company. And I wanted to say that one person here, Lisa, mentioned that she's working on updating her advanced directive for COVID. And that's something that I think is really going to be relevant to our conversation today. I know that my husband and I had a real long conversation about intubation and what that actually means, and how and when we would want that. So I think that's something that might be able to work in here.
Yeah, thank you.
And also, I just want to add on that. That's why I really want you guys to go back and listen when we do get the uploaded link. It's like a 17-minute like audio of a respiratory therapist of 30 years, and he talks about intubation like start to finish. And I just think it's the real information, everybody.
Yeah, it's very casual and user friendly conversation. So part of the resources that Jill kind of pulled together for this talk, she pulled out some stuff from Dr. Sunita Puri, who has a beautiful book that I'm actually in the middle of, the Good Night that she's did. But Jill, do you want to share? I know she had a New York Times op-ed piece this last week. Do you want to kind of share some of the words that she said about this?
Yeah, so a quote that I pulled out of this article that I thought was really relevant says, our collective silence about death, suffering, and mortality places a tremendous burden on the people we love and on the doctors and nurses navigating these conversations. We should not be discussing our loved ones' wishes for the first time when they are in an ICU bed, voiceless and pinned in place by machines and tubes. Talking about death is ultimately talking about life and about who and what matters to us and how we can live well together even when dying. Rather than being motivated by fear and anxiety, we can open these conversations from a place of care and concern.
Beautiful, thank you. This was in the New York Times, so it's her. She's really on a thought leader and doctor in this movement who has a beautiful narrative on talking about how to talk with families. And I know these are opportunities for us to hold space for others by able to be utilizing or reflecting on these tools instead of, like, hey parent, hey mom and dad, here's some cards. I want to take one out. There's articles and reflections out there. So thank you for sharing that. Is anybody?
And it's also it's like, oh, now y'all want to talk about advanced directives, this has always been something that healthcare has prevented and presented, and said let's do this. And people are like, no. But now that there's this significant chance that you could die this terrible death, everyone's like, let's do this. I mean, we'll help you, of course.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of interesting. Does anyone else want to comment? Just you can raise your hand or wave your hand, and if you want to speak for a second about this. Okay, Lori.
Lori, sorry. Yeah, Lori, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, this is so important. And what I found, even in doing the advanced directive, it's some of the details. Because when we first got married, we had an advanced directive. It was kind of the boilerplate advanced directive. But when it came to the time where he was in hospice, it became, it was those specific details that we generally don't talk about, the space that you want to be in, and all those different little things that sometimes aren't in the advanced directives. So something to keep in mind. There are worksheets and things out there and some of the questions that we have in the deck, sort of point to that and sort of open that up to, those specifics that sometimes are missing.
I see here that Jill, thank you for that. And like I said, in a few weeks, we'll be talking really about those advanced directives. I see Jill McLennan, she asked about how often should you update your advanced healthcare directive? It's situational. I mean, on an annual basis to be reflective on it, but it is situational in terms of, who's your agent? Your agent might change. Your condition might change. So it's always, I think, an ongoing reflection, and you really should check in with your healthcare system to see what they're updated, because right now they're all getting on it and updating their records so it can be in their systems. So I think before, and I see Betsy, hold on a second. I see your hand raised. So I think it's really check in with your healthcare system, update it within there, and really on an annual, unless maybe there's a chronic or terminal illness where you have to be more apt to do it. Betsy, and then I don't know, Jill, if you had something to add too. Oh, I'm trying to unmute you, Betsy. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all in a bunch of the same Facebook groups, but people are talking about, this is different. Like, it's not like you have cancer or like with the COVID-19. Like some people are saying, I wrote my advance directive. I wanted, didn't want intubation, but now if I have a chance of living, it's like a different time. Like a lot of people are talking about like, how much chance do you have to survive and that kind of thing. So it's feeling very different for people rather than if you had like cancer, and that kind of thing, you're on your last, kind of hurrah. And now like they are saving people who've been intubated, like people have intubated and come off. So it's a question that a lot of people, and I know I'm getting like, I think daily updates from like NHPCO, like National
Hospice, yeah.
And other people are saying like, it might change just for this time, because if you can make it, and, and some people are saying skip it because I'm 75 and give it to like a 30-year-old. So it's really changing, I think, at this point, because it's a different time, it's a different disease, it's a different feeling of it. So a lot of people are talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm up there, so I don't, I'm, almost 60.
Absolutely.
So it feels different, like for people.
I think Jill, oh yeah.
So other people's
Thanks.
thoughts or what it is, like, no, I don't want intubation ever, but now maybe with this, if I can live, or, I mean, I used to work in ICUs. I know what it looks like. I've watched it. I've been there. I've watched them put the tube in. I've watched them taken out. I've been by the bed. So I know how horrible this is.
And I think that's what Jill,
it. So
yeah, Betsy, I think that's
I've
what I
been
think.
the social worker for these people. So other people's thoughts, I'd love to know, like if you feel differently just for this COVID thing versus down the line,
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you so much. And we'll be able to look back on this and, listen and hear that over and over again. Sid, I saw that your hand was raised. Stephanie, if you want to unmute Sid, and then Emily, I think I saw your hand raised as well.
Okay, thanks. And then Megan, I saw your hand.
I don't know. Did you? I'm
Did
trying
you
to
get your hand?
It sounds like I'm unmuted now.
Yes.
Right. I wanted to just make a couple of comments about intubation. There's some real concerns before anyone should think about it. One of them, of course, is the likelihood of surviving. The next is how long you're going to be on, which is likely to be 2 to 3 weeks. And when you're on it, this is not a walk in the park. This is a horrible experience for everybody. And when you get off, after the 2 or 3 weeks, they pull out the breathing tube and you jump off the table and you're back to where you were before. Not even close. There was a study done that 6 months after people got out of intubation, 50% of them were either in a skilled nursing home or were being cared for by relatives.
Thanks, Sid. Yeah, those are the realities. You explain that very clearly of the questions to consider.
The chat that I have with the
Yes.
respiratory therapist, Sid, talks a lot about that. He literally tells you like how they put the equipment in and how what they do and how it's actually a reversed breathing process to what we're doing now naturally as our humans. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, that was very clear. I like those kind of pointers. Emily, did you? Oops.
Sorry, mute myself. Here we go. I just want to say, this level of denial that's happening. Like, I have a 92-year-old client who is on hospice, and her family is really freaked out. I understand. She's isolated. She has caregivers coming in, but they were just talking about yesterday, requesting that if basically if she gets COVID, to try to like get off of hospice and get intubated. And I just, I was like very surprised by that. And so I do think that people need to be educated on exactly what it is. Similar to like, I think kind of like of CPR, how not a whole lot of people know how intense CPR can be. But anyway, I just wanted to share that little anecdote because it's truly upsetting.
The fear of it all. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. It's like, even though it's an ethics question, even though we have the technology and the, interventions to prolong life, like what is the quality of life and what's it worth, even to the, individual. So,
yeah.
All right. I think we have a death deck question.
You know what, can I actually hop in one more thing?
Yeah.
So really quickly, and I'll keep it concise. We talk a lot about how we can help frontline responders. And one of the things that I really liked about Dr. Puri's comment is she says that we are asking doctors and nurses to be responsible for these conversations that could have happened beforehand. So when we think about the list of what they're telling us to do, right? Stay inside, wash your hands, sew masks, right? I live in Ventura. They're asking me to sew masks for my local hospital. And you know what? Have these conversations not only about yourself, but about the people around you. Because if you think about this as a way to ease the burden on the people who continue to show up and do the heart work and the handwork every day, that is something. And that is something that I hope that we can take as this is more than an opportunity to have these conversations. For those of us who understand, this is a time that we need to be encouraging those who don't.
Right. The details are important. Thank you. And I know it's like 2 weeks. It's like summer school, I feel like, with living in this COVID-19 time, where like every day, like when you're in summer school, like every day feels like a week. And then it's like, every week is a month or a semester. Because I was going to say in a couple weeks where we can really go into the details of the DNR and DNI and for the Advanced Healthcare Directive. And I'm like, I hate to say it's down. I mean, we can continue this conversation, but it is something that we can really focus on some of those more details. And I did with the respecting choices. A lot of these organizations that are membership organizations are giving things away for free during this time as a way to handle conversations. They're an advanced care planning organization that really did a great Q&A with clients and with doctors and patients, healthcare professionals like us, and patients or clients. So definitely there's good tools in terms of like, what does that conversation look like? So we can kind of share that down the road. And if you find anything that kind of resonates with you, please share with us. All right, we are on to death deck question 3.
Number 3.
Fear. What scares you most about dying? A, fear of the unknown. B, the pain in the process. Or C, it happening too soon.
Okay, so I'll admit that I'm a C. I don't really, okay, so like ultimately, I don't care how and when I die. I will accept it when I know it's happening, or if I suddenly get into a car crash, like I guess that's it. But yeah, ultimately, I'm a B.
I think the pain in the, I think for me, it's be pain in the process, but I think I'll be able to advocate for myself as well. So I think, there's certain things that feels like you can kind of mandate and knowing enough. So I was going to say pain, knowing that I guess what I'm garnering and getting right now is the tools of communicating and learning what's out there to be of support. So
yeah.
So
Mandy, Mandy had her hand up. What do you think, Mandy?
Well, I was going to say one that isn't in this list is, C is definitely mine. Like, dying before, I'm older, but I think my bigger fear with that is sort of the pain and the state that I can leave my loved ones in.
Oh yeah.
And that's what scares me, is like just thinking of, if I were to like die tomorrow, like how that would affect my parents' lives and my partner's life, and like how terrible that could be. And that's what like kind of really gets to me more than anything.
Right. Yeah, the emotional, thank you for sharing that. And you're right, all these questions, and even with Lisa and Lori sharing that, these are meant for conversation. If you don't see it, we're not putting ourselves in these categories. So Mandy, thank you for sharing that. And
Thanks, Mandy.
yeah.
And Callisto actually raised her hand. I'm like new to Zoom, so I'm like, ooh, that's fancy. Can we, all right, go ahead. I think I unmuted you. There you go. Thanks, Mandy.
Yeah. I put myself as an ANC, and I play the Death Care deck a lot. um, and I think that content warning, as a survivor of suicide, I didn't have a death care plan in place when I attempted, and my partner was there for me through the whole path. And now, after getting into this work, I mean, I was involved in the work when I got to a point of not wanting to be on the plane anymore. But with COVID-19, I feel that even more so. I guess I'm kind of between old and young. I'm an old soul, but I'm not yet 30. I'm 27, 2 more years. And it's just, what would it look like? I was just texting my dad earlier saying, hey, you don't have an advanced care directive. I'd like to go over that with you. Can we do it on Zoom or Skype? And he only likes Facebook, or not Facebook, FaceTime. I'm like, well, we'll make it work. But just the fear of the unknown, of what would happen after. I don't think I'm afraid of who I'd be leaving behind, but my partner knows that kind of like a Titanic death, where it's like, if you die, I die. But it's like being on the same page, but just not knowing what the end would look like, as well as it happening too early. And in another space, we were talking about how so many people out there are worried about dying and not having a legacy to leave behind. And I'm part of that group where it's like, if I die now, I'm going to be like an unemployed person who had a passion for others and had a lot to give, but I don't have a whole story wrapped up yet if the unexpected would happen now.
Thank you for sharing and knowing that this is a safe space for you to share your how you're feeling and where you're at. Great.
100%. And whatever you do, just have a plan and have a team that supports you. Yeah.
And the idea of legacy work at any time, of what's our intention and why are we here. And, with different work, one of the things Emily has done is these, living funerals. And those are really opportunities for us to there's meditation and mindfulness and all this. There's also living funerals to really touch base of who we are and what's important to us and what's our legacy and how we're doing that. And I think we all have that, Callisto. I mean, I know I have that too. It's a purpose. What are we here in the legacy? So.
And I want to unmute Emily for just a second, because actually those living funerals were created, I believe, originally in South Korea to combat the high rates of suicide, even though, can you speak to that, Em?
Yeah, so in Korea and a lot of Eastern countries, they have a very intense work culture, and a lot of people, that's their whole life, is just, honoring their family by working very hard and bringing home the money and supporting their family. And a lot of people do unfortunately commit suicide there. And so part of their solution was to create these mock funerals for the workforce. And that's what's so interesting about it. They're done in these large conference rooms, and companies actually send their workers in groups, 40 or 50 at a time, to do these 4-hour-long living funerals where you get into a physical coffin box, and it's tampered shut, and it actually is showing to work with in regards to curbing suicide. So that's where I got the idea, and that's what I've been doing here in the US, but not specifically geared towards suicide so much, just for like general life help.
Yeah, it's been different in the US because obviously we do death differently than South Korea, but we'll talk more about that. We'll have you do a whole living funeral sesh one day on the chat. So
Jill, did you want to add a little bit about your reflection on your resource from Francis Culp? If you know 49 from San Francisco, if you want to add.
Okay, yeah. So actually, I'm glad Sid's here because the next quote that I have, I'll read very quickly. So Megan, it's under resource 3, the quote. So Sid sends me a lot of really helpful emails, and this email quote came from a woman who's 49 years old in San Francisco, who says, "In the midst of my end of life planning, the unimaginable happened. It is not death in general or even death from COVID that frightens me as much as the fact that is changing our death experience to one of isolation. This is almost too much for me to bear as I think of the many people dying alone in hospitals, surrounded only by mass strangers, as loved ones are left to their heartbreak at home. As it stands now and for the foreseeable future, there appears to be a moratorium on anything that we might consider a quote-unquote good death. If I were to fall ill now, my husband would be at my side, but there would be no one coming to say goodbye, and I will not hear the beautiful sound of my friends and my family chatting, and that vase sitting next to my bed would sit empty."
Thank you. Megan, thank you.
Mandy's waving her hand. She's got it.
I just I've been thinking about like exactly that, and what's wild is just like last Friday, a member of our team, her dad, they live in Long Island, and he's 85 and he was diagnosed with COVID, and he's in the hospital right now, like on an intubator. And he's in like a coma, and it's just like, and her mom is like at her house, and like their whole family is home, and he's like literally dying in hospital right now. And it's just like, it's so wild to think that like no one could be there with him. And like it's crazy too, because like the like him and his wife, they were like in the same tiny little apartment together in Long Island. And like, I think she might have had it, but she recovered, and he's just like still there. And it's like every 4 hours, she gets a call from a doctor, which is great. But it's just like, and she's still working, and I told her to take the week off, but it's just like so wild to think that like people are going through that. And like, even just being a family member, knowing that like your loved one is dying, it's just like, I don't know, it's like heartbreaking to think about. But yeah, that's all I wanted to share.
Thank you.
I love that doctors actually really are communicating, and I feel like most staff members in the hospital are doing everything possible to be like, okay, we'll hold our phone up, we'll do something, send a letter, whatever, to say goodbye. So I believe they care, and that's good. I can't believe, yeah, it's affecting all of us. It's just insane. Yeah. Thanks, Mandy.
Thank you.
Megan, anyone else with a comment?
No, not a lot of comments right now. Looks like everybody's sharing pretty publicly. I shared that quote. You mentioned the first responders and the doctors and nurses that are doing what they can. I know some grief workers that are putting together some what will be CE nurse training, like credits that they need to get, that specifically has to do with dealing and processing and digesting and metabolizing the grief and the trauma that they are facing in just a near constant basis.
Yeah.
Amber, you had something that you just put in the comment box that's actually pretty profound. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so I was saying that I know, like, when I talk, I feel like I always have like a super downer kind of view of the world and everything. And it's the fact that the good death was never really something that a lot of people had the privilege of having in the first place. It was, or has been, kind of viewed as a primarily very like something that was reserved for the upper echelon. And I think that what is hard right now is that the rest of the world is having to realize that they're suffering like so many people around the world have been. And I hope that this becomes something that allows us to re-examine how we create a good death for those that are less fortunate than us. Because I think that we've just taken so much for granted. And this is just such a horrible thing. I was talking to Jill on the side, but I haven't shared it with you guys, but last night one of my childhood friends' dad passed away. He had a heart attack, and it's really really sad. I played soccer with her my whole life, and I remember her dad, and he got discharged because they didn't want him in the hospital, and they didn't want him there, and the doctor sent him home, and he ended up having a heart attack last night, and Michelle wasn't able to save him. And I think that we're going to see a lot more, like right now we're a lot about deaths from COVID, but we're going to start seeing a lot more deaths like my friend's mother, who died because the hospital just wanted him out and didn't want to deal with him.
Rocio, did you have something?
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Amber. I know it's a lot to deal with a friend and amidst everything that's happening. And it's again, just to reaffirm the culture. I think death in the way that we have seen it, and who had access to spaces in the way that we have seen it also, like you said, have been kind of propagated for folks that have had access in some way. And my family is Mexican, and so the connection that we have around death has always, even though we don't overtly talk about it culturally, there's a lot of community around it, right? And so there's always a communal sense around how we're ushering people into their transition out of this realm. And that's in many ways what is happening right now, is showcasing the structural systems of the capacity of our medical system, right? And its faults, and also the industry of death and its faults as well. And there's so much here. There's just so much here. I'm overwhelmed with emotion, but also with possibility, amidst everything that we're dealing with. And so I just feel like everything's getting highlighted right now. People are going to suffer in the midst of all that. And we just have to be realistic around it. But how do we keep being ushers and midwife this process through as best as we can? So
beautiful. Thank you, Rocio. And I think it's our expectations and the conversations and being real with what we're able, like the good death or not. I think it's really time for us to hold space for what other conversations might be. So
Betsy, what's up?
Just really quickly, because that's what I was noticing so much, was the fear of being alone. And I mean, I definitely know the cultural issues. And Amber, I'm so sorry about your friends.
Yeah.
So sad. And that is happening. But the other day I just sat and recorded a video because so many people were afraid of dying, the people dying alone. And a lot of my friends were like writing about that. And that seemed to be like what was happening. So I just recorded a quick video just about like, I mean, in all my years of working with the dying, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, is like the spirits and guides and our deceased loved ones come from the other side to help us, like days before, hours before, and they're there with them. And I've seen it like for like my almost 30 years now consistently, and there's writings on it. So I just wanted to like offer comfort to people and say the doctors and nurses and social workers and anybody in that hospital or in that nursing home are amazing and would be there for the person, and like the technology, but also that I really truly believe they're there. Like our deceased loved ones are there helping us, even if you're intubated and, not awake. I mean, that's my beliefs. And a lot of people wrote to me and said that comforted them to know that
beautiful.
There were people there from the other side helping them, even if they weren't like awake and conscious, even though, so that was something.
And
I wish I was a writer. I wish I was a writer. I would write something like for maybe someone,
Betsy, I'll be in
because no one's
touch.
talking about it. I don't like, I'm not a writer, I'm a speaker. But it brought people comfort. And
Well, you know what's interesting, Betsy, is that again, we both have hospice experience, and I would say, and I know this is like a high percentage, but seriously, 90% of the patients, Lisa, you know hospice as well, they all have this like experience of like talking to, seeing, reaching out for, dealing with ancestors before they die. And it's undeniable. I don't know what to say about it. It's just, yeah, amazing just to hear that. Thank you. Rocio, yes.
Yeah.
So thank you, Betsy, for talking about that. It's a lot of folks, it's, again, I'm so emotive and emotional about this because I think there's a veil that's breaking to help us understand that we don't live in this physical reality as is, and that there is something on the other side that is also helping. And in the midst of this moment that we can't experience life and transition in the way that we're used to, I feel like there's a calling for us to call it spirituality, be it religion, whatever anchors you, to understand that there's something bigger, that life is bigger than what we experience, and to call on that energy, and that support system is there because it is. And we don't, necessarily comprehend the dying process. And that's the mystery of life. But there is something there that is helping us transition over. And there are some energetic support that is also available to help, people cross that veil. And how do we access that and remember that? And it's a beautiful time, I think, to be able to remember that. So thank you for sharing your video, and keep sharing it. Thank you.
Jill, I think I'm going to go for Jill. You wrote something, McLennan, you wrote something if you wanted to share in the chat or not.
Yeah, Jill wrote, I sat up in the middle of the night nursing a 6-month-old, listening to my grandmother talk to the women who were standing behind me. They were singing to her. It was an amazing thing to be present for.
Thanks, Jill. Thank you, Megan, for sharing that. Thank you.
It was a really great experience, even though at the time I was a little freaked out, partially because she actually didn't know that I was me. She kept thinking I was somebody else. And she kept saying, my granddaughter has a baby that age. And I was like, I have no idea what is happening right now. And then she starts like talking to these women, and they're like singing to her. And I like look behind me, and I was like, all right, well, but she was so convinced that they were there, and they were obviously really calming to her, that I just like embraced it. And after that, I was like, awesome. Like, this is the strangest experience, but it's really, really cool. So yeah,
awesome.
I was happy to have that experience with her. You're
so present for her. Beautiful. I know Birgitta kind of just joined us. You had something you wanted to add, Birgitta?
Hey, yes.
Oh, you just unmuted yourself. Hold on. Wait. Birgitta, you need to unmute yourself. I was pushing it. There you go.
All right. Yeah, I love the conversation. And I think what is so present for me is that we've all been, I mean, not all, but a lot of us working in this field have been working on bringing death back home, and bringing this awareness of that ultimately death is something we all know how to navigate. We navigate it best with those close to us, and that we don't need specialists to tell us how to do it. And this just came tumbling down the mountain. So it's going a lot faster than any of us would have wanted. But there is a beautiful opportunity for us to remind people that, just as we know how to help ourselves in birth, we know how to help ourselves in dying, and to trust that even if we're not with someone, that they have that same guidance, and to maybe look for other ways, look for, if we cannot be connected to them physically, look for ritual, go within and find the guidance that's there, and connect to whatever that is. May it be nature, God, your community, whatever that is. But ultimately, we have done this since the beginning of time, and there have been times where the avalanche came for us and we couldn't get out of the way. and we've made it through. And I think the way we make it through is by doing what we're doing here, connecting and sharing wisdom, sharing love. And the other thing is to really trust ourselves, to go back to really the essence of things. And I think we have an opportunity to help people do that right now, right? To get on the phone, to get on Zoom, to, you know, in whatever measure, but to be that voice that goes beyond comforting and beyond being compassionate, that brings in a different seed, that brings in some, you know, sometimes a very ancient kind of wisdom, maybe. But I think we're being called upon to do our work just in a different way.
Oh, I feel it. I feel it.
Yeah.
We've been busy, haven't we,
Yeah.
desk workers? Absolutely.
So on that note, we're going to kind of,
Absolutely.
thank you, Brigitte. We're going to close up. So I want to just raise a glass to that. I move over to my water from my
Yes,
beer.
before Rocio is going to lead us
Yeah,
to a
exactly.
nice
So
ending.
yeah, once again, pleasure. We're doing this every Friday at 5:00.
Different themes, different themes,
yes. So
in-depth discussions.
Right. So the themes are, next week it's going to be grief. It's a process. The next week it's going to be advanced healthcare directive and legacy. Wow, these are things that's all popping up for people.
Wow.
The other one after that is cannabis and integrative healing. I think that's kind of more of the spiritual, like what else is big and around us. And once again, we welcome everything in this space. We're going to keep your heads up for hashtag TDIF, Thank Death It's Fridays. And we're going to close with Rocio just kind of concluding right now, just kind of a closure for all of us to be in this space of gratefulness and present. So I'll let Rocio, I'm going to hand it over to you for the last couple of minutes here.
Yeah, thank you. So how we want to end this is really connecting to ourselves, our spirit, right? And so we're gonna end what is here. I love the way that this conversation has ended, because it's really the invocation around us being human, connected to something that's broader than us. And so with that, I'm gonna come back and take you into just a gentle meditation just to close this circle. So if everyone can just sit up straight if you can, however comfortable you are and can be. And just gently feel your body sitting in this position. I want you to close your eyes if you haven't closed your eyes yet. Beginning to connect to your breath. Just witnessing the sensations of your breath as they're coming, as the breath is going into your body, as you're inviting life force into your body. And as you're exhaling, feeling that sensation of the breath exiting your body. Taking this moment to thank life for this opportunity to be here right now. Reminding that breath is the connecting force to life and death. With our breath, thanking all the energies around us that is reminding us of why we're here, of how we're here. And thanking those energies, whether you call them spirit guides, guardians, angels, or simple life energy, just thanking it for allowing you to be here in this moment. The next breath, as it sinks deeper into your body, connecting you to this source, to this energy. Sending that intention, that welcome of those that are in transition, that have been in transition, as they morph into their new life path, whatever that is. Those that are coming into this life, those that are exiting right now. Just taking this moment of silence to welcome and to let go. And with the next breath in, and the next breath out, gently, gently, you open your eyes, looking down as you awaken into this space once again. So thank you everyone for being here today. Yeah, I look forward to the next meetings together. So just be in that resonance as much as you can, even if it's for a little bit. It'll help everything that's around you. Thank you.
And one last big cheers before everybody goes. We'll see you guys next week because thank death, it's Friday.